Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join his mission.
What led you to this point? Why did you gravitate towards this particular passion?
I had just moved to Cambodia. This was like 20 years ago now.
See. Wow.
And I was working in Cambodia, and I wasn't going to be working with children whatsoever. And at the time, I was actually doing a research piece, an ethnographic research piece. And I'd only been there for a few months, and there was quite a large orphanage in the country. It was probably one of the most reputable orphanages in terms of the government's perspective. And they called me one day and asked whether or not this young woman, she was a teenager, whether or not she could just come and flat with me. And she was leaving the orphanage. She needed somewhere to go. And I didn't think much of it because we weren't, our ages weren't that much different. And I just thought it'll be like having a flatmate, and that's fine. And said yes. And when she came and we became good friends and we flatted together, I started to see all of these issues unfolding in her life in terms of her ability to live and fit in with society, her, that deficit in life skills and just basic knowledge of how to function. And not only in her life, but she had quite a large sibling group, and many of them had left or in the process of leaving the institution. And it was unfolding in all of their lives as well. And it was just so obvious that something was happening. Wow. This wasn't just an anomaly. This wasn't just a one-off case. And so I started digging into, this whole issue and asking questions, looking for the research. And I came across the research and began to realize that my friend and her family really were a case study for what the evidence does show about the impacts of institutional care on children. And that kind of catalyzed a process that led me to go and try and find, okay, where are the options? Where are the family-based care services and systems in the country? And just sort of realize that we were at a point of time back then where reforms, were underway in some countries, were not at all being discussed in others. And I could just see that this is an issue that, it needs a complete shift in practice. And a lot of that wasn't just stemming from what was happening in the country. It was also stemming from the way churches in overseas countries were interacting with orphanages through volunteering, through funding, through missions programs. And that basically started a journey that I'm still on today of working in this space around care reform.
I feel like you just dropped 100 bombs on me, and we have to unpack each one.
Sure.
I could hear all these nuances in the story.
Yeah.
And I think you might have to articulate it for those who are not in this realm to kind of understand this catalytic shift that needs to take place. Just to reiterate, you're talking about a young woman, I imagine, who just phased out of an orphanage. Is that what you mean by institutional
That's right.
care?
She lived in a Christian-run orphanage in the country that had just over 100 children in it. Beautiful
Smallish,
facilities, beautiful grounds, attentive staff. And so it wasn't a bad orphanage by any measure. And yet here you had this young girl who, when she left the orphanage at around about 16, 17, just completely lacked the life skills that you would normally develop in a family that enable you to cope when you're back in community.
So I think that's the thrust or the issue you're putting forth. Orphanages have accomplished a certain thing, but have we, I guess here's the question. Have we created, or has a beast been created that we must feed to keep going, but it's not the end-all system that you would like to see in place?
Absolutely. Institutions are one type of care for children.
Okay.
There are other types of care, and what all of the evidence from over a 70-year period of time from all different regions across the world unanimously demonstrate is that institutions cannot meet children's holistic needs. And there are ramifications of institutional type care on children's development.
Wow.
And therefore, even though institutions are able to meet certain needs of children, they're able to provide shelter, they're able to provide clothing, they're able to provide access to education in many settings, food, but the environment of an institution takes away all of the things that develop in a child based on the family setting and the contact with caregivers. No, and so it's not a matter of making institutions better places. It is actually the regime of care, the institutional nature of care that has a detriment to children's development. Wow. And that is why we are, as a movement, both faith-based and in the secular realm, really calling for the end of institutional care for children, because there are other types of care, most prominently family-based care, that need to be prioritized, because we know that that's the environment in which those holistic needs can be better met.
So, for example, foster care?
For example,
And the
foster
list would
care.
go on, I'm sure, much longer than that.
Exactly. Kinship care is the other really big one.
What is that exactly?
And kinship
is that?
care is care in an extended family.
I
So
see.
it's
Okay.
auntie, uncle, grandma,
Sure.
grandpa. It's, it might be a close neighbor, someone who's had a long-term relationship with the family, and that's all considered kinship care.
Okay.
And that can be informal, an arrangement just between families, or it can be a formal care arrangement as part of child protection systems.
Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join His mission. This podcast is powered by Within Reach Global. Subscribe, watch, and listen on YouTube today. Visit missionspulse.com.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. Also, you might want to check out this video here, and honestly, that one's not bad either. Make sure you subscribe to Missions Pulse by clicking the subscribe button right here, and also click that little bell button so you get notified every single time we post a new video.